So let's do it. We've got here eventually the striker list. Now, shout out to Flynn, he's not here. He's been waiting for this list for so many weeks, then goes down with a stomach bug, so he's not able to be here for it, but we are going to do it. Striker list. At least I can't hopefully stuff up any positions this week. We've got no wingers in other positions this week. Get us kicked off, man. Number 10 for you in your striker list.
Nunes. So, I think he definitely deserves to be in the top 10 list. Purely on his actual output isn't bad. He's got 5 goals, 6 assists. When you look at how he's played, his performances are very, very good. He reminds you of those traditional strikers like the Benzemas and the Suarez. He's just lacking that final product at the moment. And we were talking about this before. He finds a final product and he's one of the best strikers in the world. That is how simple it is. Like, he's got his game is really, like, well-rounded.
Yeah.
Like, he's got the pass.
He makes the pass.
Like, he could really be a number 10. Yeah. Like, but I definitely think his best position is striker because he's so close to being able to just find those finishes that he can't deserve to miss. Because the problem is, it just builds pressure on himself as well. You see the pundits go out on him.
Yeah.
And even people like us, we're very, very critical on it because as a number 9, that is your number 1 priority.
Put the ball
You've got to put the ball back in the net. It doesn't matter how it goes in there, just get the ball back in the back of the net. But if you've got the ability to do other stuff, you've got other parts of your game that other strikers don't have, and then you just got to tweak a little bit to get that final product.
It's just a confidence thing. I think surely it's going to come. The thing is, he gets so many chances. That's a good sign.
XG's like
it's ridiculous.
The highest of like, I think he's got the XG to goal ratio is like the worst in the Prem, and it's been like that for 18 months, which starts to become concerning at this point. And we did mention this previously. When it starts to go for such a prolonged period of time, do you start to just think that he's incapable?
But he scored goals before. And the thing is, he scores some ridiculous goals as well. He sometimes misses the easy one and scores the hard one. So I even think back to that Newcastle, the reverse Newcastle fixture. Those goals weren't like easy. There was
across the keeper.
Obviously, he gets set up in those positions, but still, you got to finish the chance. So he's got it in his bag. It's just that we just need to see it, but consistently. And the thing that I always touch on, the frustration I have with a lot of Manchester United wingers and other forwards in the Premier League is even Sterling the other week, not passing the ball. This guy almost too much looks to pass first, and that's why he's got all these assists to Salah and to Nunes and to Jota.
But do you think with Salah there, it makes his life a lot easier in the sense that he doesn't need to be relied on as much? So you see him actually more as providing that final pass instead of having to finish it, which is suiting him at the moment. But if he didn't have a Salah there, do you think there'd be a lot more pressure on him?
A lot of pressure. Liverpool won't be anywhere near, obviously, where they are. So that as such, everyone's like, what's wrong?
See, it's working at the moment. We looked at the likes of, we've never really needed a Liverpool striker to go and have unbelievable output. Look at how good Firmino was ages ago now. But look how good he was. And he would only have 9-10 goals a season, which is looking at the path that Nunes is going on. He's got 5 goals. I'd expect him to finish with 10. But realistically, if he finishes with 10 and 12 assists, you'd say that's a good season from him. Obviously, as a striker, and looking at how well he does for like Uruguay and how well he did for Benfica, you're expecting a bigger output for him. But maybe as well, that will just come. If you can get some confidence by just getting game in, game out, get the assists on the board, surely those tap-ins, like, I know we say he's incapable because of the length of time that he's been doing it for, but surely that's the easiest part of the game. Like, I know playing the game, like, that's more a confidence thing than an ability thing.
It's just, it's literally just one simple step. And a simple step changes, he changes, and all of a sudden becomes top.
A Sunday League striker puts those things away. It's more the fact of confidence. Those exact chances he was putting away for Benfica, he puts them away for Uruguay when he plays for Uruguay, but he just doesn't seem to at the moment for Liverpool. And that has to be a confidence more than an ability thing.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I back it. I was close having you in. I ended up putting Hwang in. Again, we're debating if it's Cunha or Hwang. I got them because either one of them I feel like you could put in. Cunha's basically playing as number 9, but it's like a false 9. So, you know what? Hwang cross Cunha is my number 10. Either one of those guys. Both of them have been ridiculous in recent weeks. Wolves, a good side as well. They've beaten some big teams at home. City, Chelsea, due to Newcastle. Absolutely battered Everton on the weekend. So they're a team that's really good at home. Gary knows them playing good football, but it's because of these guys scoring and being clinical. And I think back to match 1, at Old Trafford. We were going up against them. Cunha and Hwang were dangerous consistently, and they were so threatening in front of goal. And you talk about Nunes and missing chance. These guys don't miss many. I think their XG to goal ratio will be like, pluses, because they're converting some very difficult chances. So whoever you want to put there, I can't remember. I can't keep my list. So I'm pretty sure I had Cunha in my number 10. So I'm going to Hwang as my number 10 for me.
João Pedro.
Like it, yeah.
So obviously he's only been in the Prem for like 6 months of the 12-month period, but I think his ability has been shown in previous years when he was at Watford.
Yep.
I think his output has been really good. I know he's on penalties, which can sometimes be...
Got to finish them though.
Yeah, exactly. A goal's a goal, as we said.
Yeah.
No, but I think he's been really, really good in the Brighton team. Like, he's held people like Evan Ferguson out of a starting position. Like, he's probably one of those players that is actually on the team sheet week in, week out,
probably
which
one of the
is
only few.
really, really surprising from De Zerbi. Yeah. So I think he definitely deserves to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've got him quite high, a little bit higher than what you've got him here. My number 9 is Calvert-Lewin.
No,
purely because, and this sort of, when he plays, he's probably one of the best players or strikers in the Prem. But I have to put him down because over the last 18 months, has he played probably much of it? He probably only played 6 months of the 18 months. So that's why I've only got him there at number 9. If he plays for Everton consistently, they probably go mid-table. That's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
If he plays consistently, they go mid-table. His goals haven't quite been the same amount this year, but he's constantly a threat. And him and Doucouré, that little link up, probably one of the best 1-2 sort of forward twos in the Premier League from the bottom half. Because the top half, you got some ridiculous names.
Well, they would be top half, so
yeah, exactly.
Really are a top half.
So the top half team. So I'm really, really impressed what he's done. Got to stay fit though. That's why he's number 9 for me.
Jesus.
You got him in there? No, I don't like it.
You don't have him in there?
I don't have him in there.
I think he definitely still deserves to be in there because touching on the end of last season more so than this season.
Yeah.
Because, how can I explain this the best? I think over the last 18 months he deserves to be in it. Over the last 6 months, is he a top 10 striker? No. But I think he was still quite good for Arsenal last year. When you talk to many Arsenal fans and watch Arsenal play, he provided that role like a Bobby Firmino did for Liverpool. I think he was definitely quite important in the success they had last year. Finishing so high up, challenging for the Prem. I think him coming over from City, him and Zinchenko did make a huge difference. And I think he allowed the people like Martinelli and Saka to really have output. Yeah. Because he was always the hold-up. He did so much more than just put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was really required to have the output because of Saka and Martinelli. Yeah. So now we're seeing the problem is, though, because Saka and Martinelli aren't flourishing, which is a bit like we were talking about before with Nunes.
Yeah.
If Salah didn't flourish, the heat's actually on him.
It goes straight onto him.
Because he's not putting it in the back of the net. But I don't know if Arteta ever bought him expecting him to score 15 goals a year.
We even said his strength is not scoring goals. It's past the level. The only thing is, with when you compare to Firmino had goals and important goals in him. I just feel like Jesus doesn't have that big moment to pop up.
What was Jesus' goals last year?
It was still quite... I'm with you with last year. Last year had a solid year. I just think...
This year.
You need these sort of players to stand up when things aren't happening, right? When last year he had 11 goals and 6 assists. So a great year last year, right? For Gabriel Jesus, he doesn't play many games. 26 games last year because of fitness. Yeah. But 3 goals, 1 assist. I'm pretty sure 2 have been basically just need the ball over the line and sort of a tap in. I just feel like when those two aren't performing, or when Mane and Salah weren't going, for Firmino to get a really big moment. Does Jesus have that big moment? That's probably why he's low on the list for you. That makes sense. But I definitely value that point. My number 8, this is literally a flip of the coin. I've gone João Pedro 8 because a guy above him, he's been keeping Ferguson out of the side, right? And João Pedro's been big in, not really Prem, but it's been in Europa League, he's been big. He's always really handy for Watford away back ago. But what he's been doing this year in terms of being one of the options, because right now they've been struggling prior to this sort of good little patch, they've been struggling for goals. And it's always been João Pedro who's popped up and made chances or created chances. He's got that pace. He can play in number 10 as well. He can play out in the flank. He can play down the middle. I'm pretty sure he's played in all three of those positions. Definitely played at the number 10 before, in behind like a Ferguson or a Welbeck. But he's got that, variability to his game. You can't really just defend him a certain way. That's why he's really handy. Obviously, he's very raw talent. There's not much in terms of clinical in front of goal, not quite there. But in terms of a Brighton team that have been balancing, like we said, for a long time, they're seeing ninth for a while, dropping some games. He's been the guy holding them up for big games and big goals. So that's why I got him at number 8. But again, flip of a coin being him in 7. Who's your number 7?
Hwang.
Nice. Yeah.
I've got him a bit higher up, purely based on this year, which is a little bit different to what I've been doing. But I think he's been so good for Wolves this year.
Yeah.
We look at Wolves this year after having a last-minute manager change, and the likes of him and Neto have been really rejuvenating for that team. They've changed their complete game style, and they've just been so good, and his output is so good this year as well. I think he's got 8 goals and something like a couple.
Yes.
How many assists does he have as well?
His assist numbers are still high as well. I'm pretty sure he's in the 5 or 6s for assists.
Yeah, which is crazy. So it'd be criminal not to put him in the list because he's been just so good.
3 assists. 10 goals, 3 assists. Sorry, other way around. Yeah.
10, 3 assists.
10, 3,
so that's 13 goal contributions halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Which is really, really good. So I think it'd be very hard to not put him in the list. Is he this high? I don't know. That was a question that I was having to myself when I was making this list, purely on the fact of last year.
Yeah.
I think last season he didn't have the output. He wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But when you're just so good now, it's hard to not put in there.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and that's probably the point, right? He had this sort of mini patch last year where he was good. Then we kept saying, will he do it for a longer period of time?
But he's done it for a longer period
now.
Yeah.
So maybe he goes on now, becomes one of those guys. Because he did it in Germany. He did it very well. My 7 is Evan Ferguson. So again, I was flipping a coin with these two. Hasn't quite had the kick on which I thought from last year. Started the season off very, very good, and he's probably one of the better finishers in the league. But has he got the goals and assists to follow this season? No.
Still got 6 goals.
6 goals compared to some of the other guys.
I just don't know if you... The question I have here is, I definitely think ability-wise he's a top 10 striker. I just don't know if he's had enough exposure to the Premier League yet.
To be a top 10.
He's scored 12 goals. So we look at someone like Hwang, who I put a question mark against.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's only got 10. He's got 10 goals this year. He didn't have great last year, but he's only got 2 goals
less so,
than what Evan Ferguson has in his whole Premier League career.
And that's the thing.
In 6 months.
And blinded by the ability, maybe.
Yeah.
But I just feel like he's just got Rooney about it. Whenever time he gets in a good spot, he'll put it away. And if he had scored more goals, might even have him even higher. That's a scary thing. If he'd played more and scored more, I could have him as a top 5 because he's that dangerous.
Yeah, I definitely do understand it because I think Evan Ferguson is one of those players who's just a future star in the making. He has the ability to be one of the best players in the world, to move over to one of the bigger clubs and really put away 20, 25 goals a season. Yeah. You've seen his presence. He's got the build of a Harry Kane. Yeah. He's got the type of ability, I would say, that Harry Kane did at the start of his career. You look at the way he doesn't just score goals, but he turns defenders. He receives the ball high up the field. Yeah. And then he can turn on the half turn and really play a ball out wide. He does have a little bit of playmaking in him as well, which is quite impressive from a young player.
You have to have it in a De Zerbi system, right? You have to have that ability to make a pass as well. And I think just like you said, the size, his agility and his pace is so much upside. And maybe I'm looking too much at the upside or too much of the ability, but I feel like in a top 10 strikers list, with some of the forms of other players, I feel like he has to at least be in the conversation.
Fair enough.
And I've just got him a little bit higher than Pedro, probably just because he has the better upside.
No, I
that's where
definitely
it comes from. So that's my number 7. Your number 6.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah. Well, I'm number 6 as well, Callum
Wilson.
You're
number 6. So we've obviously gone with the same thought process here. If we look back at last season, he probably would have been higher because he was starting every game. Yeah. It's very hard to put someone that doesn't start into your top 5, but he's still got 7 Premier League goals, probably starting only a handful of games.
Barely any games.
But coming off the bench and being really prominent, probably one of the best players, bench players we've seen since like the Ollies of this world. Like he's putting away chances and he's probably saved Newcastle late a few times.
His goals per 90 are like ridiculous. As well.
And looking at his last 18 months as a whole as well.
Yeah.
He scored something like 18 Premier League goals last season. So he definitely has to be up here. It might actually be a bit criminal from both of us putting him so low when we look at the players above him are more probably players that have gone from the last 6 months than the 18 months.
Yeah.
Like he has something like 25 goals in the last 18 months. We've put players above him who
had a good year. Yeah.
But it's always I think if he had 7 goals and started, I would have put him higher, which is actually funny saying that. So we've put him lower based off the fact that he doesn't. Someone's keeping him out, but he's actually played less minutes and got the same amount of goals as we're saying if he played more minutes that we would have put him higher, which is hard for process. But
I think the striker he is though, he's sort of that fox in the box. He's sort of that guy who just gets in a spot. He's not going to create his own goal like the guy who I've got above him.
It reminds me of like a prime Danny Ings.
Yeah, when Danny Ings was like, we had it at his best. I think he goes above and beyond probably a Danny Ings in terms of consistency and ability. But I just feel like
career span,
he could fit another team like those guys, West Ham, very, very well. Like if he was sick of what he was been doing, which I don't think he is, but if he was,
I don't know. I think he definitely can fit another team, but when we look at someone like a West Ham, what Bowen's doing, I feel like Mikel Antonio is just a worse version of Wilson, but they're very similar type players. Wilson's a better player. I'm just saying, in terms of what they do in a game, they're very similar. So that's the reason Bowen's starting, because if you look at what Bowen's doing, and I don't know if it's actually sustainable in itself. Because what Bowen's doing is he's actually making goals, probably that have a really, really low XG, which is something that isn't Callum Wilson's strength.
Yeah.
So I think as West Ham progress, definitely,
I think it
can be
it's
a
viable
but at this
option.
current moment in time of how they're playing, I don't know if it works so well.
Yeah, at least he's got pace to I think that Antonio doesn't really sort of have. You're number 5.
So just have to double check here.
It's a double check. Has to confirm there.
Tony.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I get where you come from.
Okay, so
it makes sense. He hasn't played a game.
He's the second best striker in the Prem currently. Like
in terms of ability,
in terms of what he's done. If we went back 6 months, 6 months Harry Kane was in it, but disregarding Harry Kane, he would be second.
Yeah.
So I just can't put him in there. He hasn't played football for 6 months. Putting him 5th, in my opinion, for anyone that hasn't played football for 6 months, that isn't like a Premier League, Champions League winner. Like the only one we've really done is KDB. Yeah. That we've put so high on the list when they haven't played football.
I can't think of anyone else we have to put in. Yeah, that's probably it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So the fact he's still 5th is quite impressive. And that's obviously all plaudits to him for last season. Last season he scored, I think, 20 or 22 goals, which was incredible in the Brentford team. We look at Brentford having lost him for the first 6 months of the season.
Struggling.
Fixed a little bit of his gap at the start of the season, but we're really seeing the hole now. And Mbeumo really needs to go back and Wisa back onto the flanks, putting him through the middle. I think they're just wearing for him to come back. They can't wait.
Arsenal can't wait either. I think Arsenal are going to try and
I don't think they're going to try and buy him right now, though.
We're going to hold on?
Yeah. I don't think Brentford will let him go, because Brentford are getting into a dangerous position.
Very dangerous. Right,
like, you're looking at Luton starting to pinch a few points. I don't know if they're relegation scary, but you just don't know.
You never know. It's going to be a big thing when he comes back.
Yep.
That's why I've got a little bit high. I've got Isak at number 5. Which,
okay.
Again, it sounds so stupid when you say, because Isak, we saw what he did last night. That goal last night literally came out of nothing. Just took the ball, drove, scored. Plays to the left. If Wilson plays, obviously he's great number 9. He's got a weird body where he looks like a little like Slender Man, but he's got that strength to hold off the defender, put the ball in the back of the net. he's got
like that one.
the Slender Man, and he's just got talk about clinical finishes. He's that clinical finisher, right? And always like, coming from La Liga, Sociedad, and you're like, is he really that good? Is he gonna prove it? Comes over, bang, hits the ground running. Reverse fixture last year, Liverpool got his debut goal. If he wasn't injured so much, you'd be saying he could also be one of those sort of top 3 Prem strikers. But yeah, impressed with him. It's sort of just a bit harsh because Newcastle not done as well this year. Maybe that's why we're not talking about Wilson and Isak as much. But again, another great start of the season. you just, again, fingers crossed he stays fit, right? If he stays fit, gets more goals and he could be further up this list. But some other big guys ahead of you.
Moving on from that, I've got Isaac at 4.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So it was whether I was going to put Isaac above Tony. And I think over the last 18 months as a whole, Isaac has been better purely on the fact that he's played.
Yeah.
And he started most games. If you look at his actual output in terms of goals, it'd be very similar to Tony over that period. Probably more than Tony considering he's played more. So the reason, I've put him ahead is purely on the fact of availability.
Yeah.
Remember, like
the classic
saying.
Best abilities, their availability. Yeah, definitely. No, it makes sense. And that's what, I got Tony at 4. I do love probably a bit of favoritism because I love a bit of Tony. I think he could be dropped in any sort of top side in the world and score goals. That's the thing. You scored 22 for Brentford. You can score for a lot of top teams.
I just always have my question marks because I've just seen it so many times. You look at Ings has done it before. You look at the Wilsons of the world who have put a lot of goals. And yes, they're very, very good players. And I'm not saying Tony could be completely different. And I think he is different. But there's always a question mark there. It's a lot different scoring for a team like Brentford than going to a United or going to an Arsenal. And because the pressure's always on you as well. Really, you score 10 goals at Brentford and you've had a good season. No one's complaining. You're not losing your spot. You score 10 goals. You just look at Højlund, who's, in my opinion, a really good player.
Yeah.
But just the pressure's got to him. I know he's scored now
7 on the year, 5 in 6 in the Champions League, 1 in the...
Yeah, but you can see the pressure's got to him. What that goal meant for him was amazing. That really showed the pressure did get to him.
Yeah. I just think... Now, this is really extrapolating. This is not my whole 18-month rule. But then you've got, he scored, a record in the Championship in terms of goals. Has a decent first season in the Premier League, got double digits, and then goes into 22. And this is a team that's sort of just 12th, 10th around the place.
Well, it definitely does show that as he's made the progressions with football, he's able to continually excel at every level that he's played at. Because actually, he was at League One. I'm pretty sure he was at Peterborough.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago either.
I'm pretty sure he was in League One at Peterborough, got League One Player of the Year. I could be wrong with this. Then he went to... From there, he went to Brentford.
I think he went to Brentford after that, yeah.
Played in the Championship with Brentford.
Yeah.
Came up with Brentford, scored a record goals, I think, before Mitrovic took
it over.
Took over. Comes into the Premier League, is really good from the get-off.
Yeah.
So it's showing that from every level he's gone to, he's been able to excel at those levels, been able to be the best player in that team at every level, which is something that really hasn't happened in the past. You always see those players that are really, really good Championship players and excel at that in that arena, but then they move to the next level and they just can't get the grips of it. And probably that's a part of me that goes, that's why I think if Tony does go to the Arsenals, if he does go to one of those big clubs, he definitely will be able to excel because he's showed that every step, every challenge that's been thrown at him, he's straight away bang onto the next one because he's been able to go just sweep the floor with any challenge.
It just shows the consistency as well. To be that consistent in terms of goals is... The only thing
he's just a goal scorer. He's like a Vardy, really.
I must say, he just creates things out of nothing. That's why I put him so highly.
He's just a Vardy that wherever he goes, he's always scoring goals.
Goals for fun. All right. So that's my 4th. Yeah, so our top 3 now.
Our top 3.
Which I think we've got the same names. About what order we've got him in, though.
Solanke 3.
Solanke 3 as well, yeah.
Okay, so I think this season, Solanke's been better than Watkins.
Probably.
I think this season...
I think this season Watkins got... Because Watkins got assists in his games as well. Watkins is the league leader assistant now as well. So Watkins is top 5 scorer and top 3 and top assister.
I don't know, but I think Solanke still, in a worse team, has been better this year than Watkins. But I think over the last 18 months, Watkins is clear.
Yeah.
So that's why I think I've put Solanke 3. And that's moving on to the Watkins thing. You just mentioned that Watkins is the leading assist. He's 8 goals?
9 goals, 8 assists. So 17 contributions.
So 17 contributions in 19, 20 games, whatever he's played, which is incredible stats.
Yeah.
It really makes you start to think, could you have, definitely not. If I was to do a 6-month
season
list, I would have put him 1. Purely based on form of this season, he would have been 1, but no. You definitely couldn't put him above Haaland.
I just think, with these two, I think Solanke as well underrated what he did last year in terms of at the back end of last season, him and Billing were scoring like.
What did Solanke finish with last season? Do you know?
Not on top of my head, but I remember just him and Billing just scoring Gary O'Neill saving goals and like, you know, getting wins out of nothing. But he's always been that striker, right? Like he's always been someone he's been at Liverpool, he's been a threat, you know, he's got that in his game. Like 6 goals, 7 assists last season in the Prem, which again, doesn't stand out. Good,
yeah.
But for a Bournemouth team that scraped survival, that goes to show like he's a good player. And I think he's got the pace. He's now developed that clinical nature. It's a big thing in the top 5. These guys are all clinical strikers, right? He's developed that over the last 12 and 18 months, probably the 12 months. And I think that's something in his game. He's got the assist in his game as well, like Watkins has as well. But I think Watkins' all-round game might be because he's surrounded by some like world-class talent. But we're seeing he's probably got more of an all-rounder game in terms of assisting, in terms of his hold-up play. I think Slanky's more of a getting behind to the striker, whereas Watkins can drop in a little. They can both drop in. I think Watkins can do it at a better level, a consistent level, and we've seen a lot of their goals. He receives it, plays it to a fullback. Fullback gets a winger in at the back post to score a goal.
Yeah, he's been incredible. Like he's another one of those players like Tony who's come from the Championship and continually excelled at every level. Like he was with Brentford and Tony was actually his replacement. And then he's gone to Villa and been a star from the start. Like you see just glimpses in my head of that 7-2 against Liverpool of how good he was that game.
Ridiculous good that,
that game just rings in my head so beautifully.
I just forgot about that. Yeah, that was his day as well.
That was probably he'd been good for Villa, but that was his day. He really took it to the next level, and since then he's been excellent.
Asserted himself as a Villa player, right? Because all these guys, again, these are all from academies of the big clubs, right? They've all come from big academy clubs, and that's why, like, you know, we're in a stage right now where like English striker, obviously Harry Kane takes it until probably does he go to the next World Cup? Who knows? But this year is obviously Harry Kane. Then after that, you've got, you know, we've got Watkins, we've got Solanke, we've got Ivan Toney, we've got all these like players there.
Would you say Watkins? Okay, I know this is a hard question to ask, but if Watkins and Toney, if Toney continued his form from last year into this season, was currently playing, who would you pick, Watkins or Toney?
I'm picking Toney. More because he's just a goal scorer. If I wanted like an all-rounder, you're picking Watkins.
If you're picking a replacement for Kane,
probably Watkins, because Watkins is the most similar in terms of dropping in, laying the ball off.
That's fair enough. I was just thinking that myself, and I don't really know how I'd split the pair.
But if England are going to play better football at this year, I can't wait for the Euros to start because that's going to be very exciting. If England are going to play this proper attacking style,
trying to get tickets to Spain versus Italy,
that'd be very interesting. That'd be very good.
If I can get tickets there, I've won the lottery. That could be the hardest football match.
It's going to be the most look forward to game, I think, so far of the Euros.
Well, of the group stage, there'll be no bigger game. And you know the rivalry of Spain and Italy, that could be immense. It
could be crazy. But if England are going to play Jude Bellingham and Rice and potentially another number 10 and Madison, like potentially. And
Madison or Cole Palmer?
Or either one. If the point is, if they play basically a 10 and Jude and Rice, then you want to play like a Toney type. Obviously, they're going to play Kane, but if Kane somehow was suspended or not available...
No, it's Calvin Phillips is getting the nod.
And Henderson will play alongside him with Declan Rice. But no, that's the thing. It's the way England progresses. Because after this, isn't Southgate done? I think Southgate said no matter what happens, he's done. So if then you go and get a new manager who's attacking, you go and play Toney as a pure just striker, a goal scorer.
See, this is where I'll talk about international football, and I think international football is a completely different...
It's defence first, right?
It's a complete different type of football than like playing for your club. Because when you play for your club, that is your club. You go there, you train with them week in, week out. You have a pre-season with them. Yeah. You don't actually have the time to develop a proper philosophy. Proper philosophy with the national team. I understand you have your camps and stuff, but you'd be lucky to spend 8 weeks a year with your national team. Right. Can you really develop a system that is completely different from... Because what you're doing is you're putting like 8-9 clubs together in a starting 11 and trying to dwell them together. And yes, a lot of clubs are now playing progressive football. Yeah. So it probably does make it a little bit easier than it did 5-10 years ago when you had 5 different systems coming in. You had Pep, and then you had Mourinho, then you had this, then you had that, and you had all these different systems. But it still makes it really hard to gel because every system has its own tweaks. You look at how Pep does it different to Arteta, who does it different to Unai, who does it different to Klopp.
Yeah. It's all the little intricacies, right? That makes it.
And the easiest way, and this is my one thing when everyone goes, oh, Southgate's football is so bad. But Southgate's football has allowed. I think it's more the players he's picked than the type of football he's played. And you can say that the players he's picked has suited the type of football he's played. But I still disagree. I still think you pick your best players, but I think you still have to have a defensive minded output. Like
the thing is, though, when you've got so much talented forward-making, playmaking players, and you have to make them defend, you just think, what if sort of thing? Because like obviously this system can get you so far, but it can't get you the major prize.
You can only have one game where it goes. You don't even need to lose. You draw, and then you put it to a luck of a flip of a coin of a penalty shootout, and it's done. That is how easy it is. But you're out of a World Cup or you're out of Euros.
Yeah, no. I just think though in that Euros, if they had played to their strength, which is attacking.
You look at the last Euros.
That's what I'm saying. But if they want to attack a bit more, I think they would have got the better of Italy. I generally reckon they would have done that. And you can say Italy were good on the counter-attack because Italy had some great forwards in that team.
Italy just purely played off grit.
Yeah, because Italy weren't as talented as England's team.
Yeah, I know.
England's talent is probably arguably the best in the world in terms of talent-wise.
Even look at Argentina. Argentina put every single player defending apart from Messi, and then
and then just lobbed it to Messi and said, "Run." Yeah. It's interesting. That's what we'll get into Euros. We'll get closer to it. Obviously, number one's Haaland.
Yeah.
Speaks for itself. They're both saying this, and Flynn said it a few weeks ago with the whole top half 11, what we did, like the All-Star 11. Obviously, it hasn't been as good as last season, but, and it's a big but, we had so much expectation because he didn't miss at all last season. Like, he went through two bad games.
It's relevant that he missed, though, because the problem is, you've mentioned it so much with Rashford and stuff, and I know it's different, but Haaland is one of those players that he has to have output. He has to. He provides nothing else.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So I'm at 14 goals. That's fine. I'm not going to say he doesn't provide output. But there becomes, I think of those 14 goals, it was still something like 10 in his first 6.
Yeah, he was.
And I know he's missed a few games, but they went through a bit of a dry patch when City started to lose, even when he was playing.
He's missing De Bruyne a big time though.
But you start to question. Because every game that he doesn't have output, there seems to be a lack of City being able to win.
Well, that's the thing though, because City is set up for him to score a goal and to win. It wasn't like you said a few years ago where it's Jesus and everyone wingers can score and centre mids can score.
That's the thing though. So when you're so dependent on one player, and don't get me wrong, if you want to be dependent on someone, Haaland's the man to be dependent on because
anyone in the league.
He puts them away. But the thing is, when we spoke about this last season, when you start to have two or three of those games where he starts to not have output, you start to look and you go, he's just extinct, to be honest. Like, he doesn't exist. Like, you're playing with 10 men.
Yeah, I know, but when you're City, though, when you're so much
it really doesn't matter because he's still going to put away 30 goals probably this season.
When they both come back, KDB and Haaland, I reckon he scores 2 a game for the first 6, literally, because I think just because they'll be back together again, there'll be some, like, telepathic link.
Yeah.
Because you even look at, like, some other teams, like, in the past, and you always need that link up, that the 1-2s and right, like even like the Tevez, Ronaldo, and Rooney, they all helped each other. And even look at like Salah and Firmino. Salah always needed Firmino to feed him in, and even now Núñez feeding Salah in.
Yeah.
Even Bowen, he's Piqué. So you always need that duo. And when you lost the best player in the world over the last 8 years, that's a pretty big loss to lose.
Oh, definitely. I definitely agree with you.
You got a striker.
That's why he's our number one.
Yeah, I think
he's our number one purely on the fact of how good he's been over the last 18 months, how clinical he is. He's the most clinical striker I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's why he's our number one. But there are there's always some question marks when he doesn't score goals.
Yes, 100%.
I think at the moment, if he doesn't score in 10 games, City will still find half of those games another way to score. But the problem is when you start to get a few more and a few more.
Yeah, then in the pressure.
You start to go to 15 games. Well, probably only City find a way to score in half of those now games. So that goes to 7.
Rodri will score every game because he just sounds to find a banger every game.
Brilliant player.
Okay, that's number 10. So our top 5s are basically only in exact Tony rotate. But
that's it. Yep.
Goes to show though, strikers are quite simple, right? In terms